Today what I wanted to do is take a look at some of the ways that you could put some of the learning that you've already done regarding basic HTML and put it together to create your own site. Basically apply the learning and the tags that you've learned to create your own original content. So I've got a folder here started already with some example pages in it, and what I want to do is open up one of these and kind of take a look at the code with you so you can see how the codes that you've learned have been applied. And then we'll go through a couple of things, colors and also links, specifically navigation links. I want to show you those things so that you can make sure that you're applying them in such a way that's going to be helpful. Alright, so I'm going to open up index.htm in Notepad++. And when we take a look at this code, it's very similar to the assignment that you had, the basic web pages assignment. So as you can see, we've got our opening HTML, and eventually we close with /HTML, so our structure tags. We've got the head section with the title. We've got the body section with a closing body. So we see that we've got our structure tags there, right? So in this case, the title of our site is going to be Jim's Hobbies, just my hobbies. And in the body section, we've got a background color. And then we've got an image. So this particular image is going to be called Hiking with Coop, and it's going to have a width and a border, an alignment, and an alt text assigned to it. Then we've got an H1 tag, and here we can see where we use the font tag to apply a specific typeface and color. And then we close out the font, close out H1. Here's an HR, horizontal rule, so for a horizontal line going across the page. And then once again, we have got our typeface, our size, and color to create a little subhead. I could have used an H3 for that. That's what I usually do, but I wanted to exercise the skills learned in the assignment. Alright, so here we've got a couple of paragraphs. And notice in this assignment, the paragraphs have content. It's not just dummy text. So I want to encourage you to apply tags to something that you're interested in, something that means something to you, to make the learning matter. All right. So in the course of these couple of paragraphs, we've got things like bold, italic. We've got underline right here. Here is a link embedded into the paragraph. So that's an external link to something out in the world. Bold, italic, and underline used together. And then down here we've got a list, something familiar, I think. And here's a mail to link. So you can see just a lot of the things that you've already used. So now that we've taken a look at that code, let's take a look at what the page looks like. And my computer will think about opening a browser. There we go. And I'll shrink this down to fit the recording window. Computer's been real slow and jerky today, so bear with me. Alright, so here you can see just a quick, nice little page. It's got a title, an H1 heading, a couple of subheads that were homemade, they're not H3s. But I've specified the fonts, the typeface, and the size, and the colors, background color. Since this hobby was hiking, I tried to do like outdoorsy type colors. And I've got some bold and some italic and some underline. And here's a hyperlink to an external source. And here's a link to, here's a mail to link that actually goes to an email system. Okay, so that's page one. And then I used that template. I used the code here as kind of a template to create a second page. So my second page is another hobby, something else I like to do. And you'll notice I've still got the same title, I've still got the same headline, but my subheads are different, my content is different, my image is different. So this is a common technique with creating web pages. You create maybe a couple of different kinds of pages or a couple of different styles of pages, and then you can reuse one of those templates for multiple content pages. Right? You can take one of the pages that you've done, copy it, change out the content, and you don't have to write it from scratch every time. One nice thing about that is that you get a consistent look and feel. You're reusing the same colors, you're reusing the same background, you're reusing the same locations for things like images and lists, and so it gets to be comfortable. You know, when you go through these, even though the content is very different, when you pop between these, they look like they're part of the same site, right? Okay, so a couple things I wanted to show you. One is color. So let's do that real quick. First of all, you'll notice in this page, both of these pages, that I've got a couple of colors like this background color in hexadecimal values, right? Here's the color for the H1. Here's the color for the subheads, right? So where do these colors come from? Well, one thing that's pretty important, you can just choose random colors, right? But the problem is when you choose random colors, they look like random colors. And so I'd like to recommend that you start thinking about colors that make sense together. I'm going to go to a site that I like a lot called color.adobe.com. This is a nice little color mixer online app, and so essentially it shows you a color wheel, and you can just play with the color wheel, but then you can also look at these different color combinations, things like monochromatic schemes and triads and whatnot. And the idea is if you choose certain colors on the color wheel, it will actually show you the complements to those colors so that it gives you samples of colors that work well together and not just random things that don't make any sense together. Okay. So what I actually did for this particular assignment is this particular site, is I went to this tab right here called Explore. And if you go to Explore, you can see some color combinations that have been pre-created. Some designer put these together, maybe a team of designers put these together with the idea that they go nicely together, and you can just pick them up and use them. You don't have to recreate the wheel. Just from my experience, I think I may have skewed what these look like by changing this color wheel before looking at those. I think they're tied to it somehow. So I'm going to close this and then go back into it just to try to refresh it. Alright, then I'm going to hit Explore, and yeah, it's more along the lines of what I was expecting. Alright, so basically if you like the look of one of these combinations, you can click on it. The one that I used was this one, Copla de Nature. So if you click Edit Copy, it brings you back. Yeah, this doesn't quite look like what I used, so I'm not sure I messed it up, but that's okay, I'm not going to worry about it. So the idea here is it shows you a bunch of colors that go nicely together, and when you click on one of them, it'll show you the CMYK values, the RGB values, lab and HSB values, but then this down here is the hexadecimal value. And this is, all of these values can be recognized by HTML. The easiest one, in my opinion, is the hex value. So then if I wanted to use that color, I would just copy it and then paste it into my code, right? And that's essentially what I did, is I took a sampling and I used one of the colors in the sampling for my background color, and then I used a different one for my H1, and then I used a different one for my subheads here and here. Okay, and then I'm assured that those elements are going to look nice together because I took them out of a corresponding color palette. Now, some of the controls that you have to work with in this scenario. So here it shows you the RGB values that made up this color, but then right here it shows you shades. So let's say that I was working on my page and my shades of color are too dark or too light. Well, I can use this slider right here to just get different values of the same color, so I could work with something lighter or darker, but still goes with the rest of the theme. Alright, so that's just one quick tip. I may bring that up in the future, just because when you're creating your sites, you're gonna want a nice color combination so that you don't have this random, crazy looking site with just random colors chosen. Okay, then another piece that I wanted to show you, and this one's particularly important, is the idea of navigation. All right, so you know how to do links. You've done them in your assignment so far, right? And so when I look at these, this code, I can do a link like this: A for anchor, href equals, and then here's the address. And this is an absolute link because it links to something out there on the internet someplace. And so then eventually I do /a to end my link that started with A, right? And so all I want to show you here is to do the same kind of thing, but you're going to use relative links instead of absolute links to link to other files within this grouping. Because the idea is this: you can create a web page. You did that in your previous assignment, but to create a website, you need multiple pages working together, right? And one way that you get them to work together is you create a consistent navigation between them. So I'm going to put my cursor down here underneath my main heading H1, and I'm just going to do maybe we'll just do font face equals Arial black, and I'm choosing that font because that's the font I've used for my other headings, right? So I want to stay consistent. And we'll do a color like, oh, I don't know, maybe I'll just stay consistent with the heading here. So I'm going to choose the same color. And I need a size. My subheads are size 4, so I want to go smaller than that. So maybe I'll do 3. We'll start with 3, and if we have to shrink it more, we'll shrink it more. Okay, so essentially I'm creating the look and feel of it, right? And then I need my actual links. So I'm going to do A href equals quote. Now right now I'm on the index page, and my other page is called cooking.html. And I just noticed one of my pages is .html, the other one's .html. That bothers me for some reason. So I'm going to take the L off of that and make them consistent. Okay. All right. So this one's called. So this is going to link to cooking.htm, and then I need some text to appear on the page. So I'm going to do cooking, and then even though, well, let's just leave it at this for a moment. I'm going to give it a couple of spaces, and then I'm going to use this symbol that looks like this for a second, and then a couple more spaces. I'll explain that in a moment, but basically what I'm doing is I'm going for a specific look here, okay? And then I'm going to create another link, and this is the part that most skip. And what I'm doing here is I'm creating a link to the page that I'm already on. And you might think, why in the world are you doing that? If you're already on that page, you don't need to link to that page, right? Well, the idea here is you want a consistent navigation on all of your pages. So once I follow my link and go to the cooking page, I'm eventually going to want to come back. And what you don't want to do is put just a link to the cooking page from the index page, or just a link to the index page from the cooking page, or however I said that. I think I said it backwards. But instead you want the same links and the same locations on the same pages. And that ties it all together, and it makes it look and feel like a single entity. All right, let's take a look at how that looks. I'm just thinking I'm going to need to include a page break here. Not a page break, a line break. All right, let's take a look. Okay, so now, okay, I've done something. I've gone off the rails there a little bit. So I've got my links, which is what I wanted, but I've also changed all my text. And I think what happened was I started with font here, and I never ended it. Alright, that's more like it. So now I've got some links right here, and even though I changed the color, they're showing in the familiar blue and purple because that's the default color of a link and a visited link. More on that in another lesson later on, but we'll just live with that for now, right? So from this page, if I click on cooking, I get to the cooking page, and now I've got no link back because I haven't copied it back yet. So what I'm going to do is in the code, I'm just going to take this entire line and copy it. And then I'm going to open my cooking page in Notepad. And right in the same location, I'm going to paste it in. Alright, so now from my index page I can click on cooking. From my cooking page I can click on hiking, and I can pop back and forth between the pages. So this is a consistent navigation with the same links in the same place on all the pages in the site. And I just want to emphasize that instead of doing random pages or random links anywhere with any colors and any fonts anywhere on the page, put them in the same place, make them look the same, and even include the links that you don't need. A lot of times the students will make the link for the page that they're on disappear. And what that does is it kind of resets the other links, like they'll collapse, and it looks different. Even though logically that makes sense, it looks different on the page and it's jarring. It makes it look like you've left the site. So my recommendation is leave all the links, including the ones you don't need because you're all on that page. Leave them there. Okay, I'm going to do a different video on uploading, but hopefully you've learned something with this. Feel free to give me an email if you need any help or have any questions.